we've mentioned commoditization. It's a reality in this space. Mark, what's your perspective? If I'm the owner of an MSP business, I'm faced with all these challenges. What advice do you have for them around this reality?
Yeah, the couple of recurring themes come first, right? One is, as Anthony has just said, know who our ultimate executive or buyer decision makers, right? Forget about the level and titles and that sort of thing. And what matters most to them, and do we or do we not have a seat at the table to either shape it and or at least understand what is happening with our clients and customers, right? To inform what, at least where do we stand in the scheme of their own strategic initiatives or important problems they're trying to solve. But one of the things that we spend a fair amount of our time on is this notion, again, of differentiation. And we might have the best people, the best products, the best services, in the MSP game. But from the client's point of view, those are table stakes, and trying to sell ourselves on those things is in some way still commoditizing ourselves a bit. And my point is, it really comes down to what thoughts and ideas do we bring to the table? We can differentiate on what and how we think they ought to go about solving things, and or maybe our clients don't even know what they should be thinking about. So particularly in business segments that have multi-year contracts, right? And I'm characterizing MSP in that space. They buy, and then we have a 1, 2, 3, 5-year commitment, and we can all sit back and go, okay, we got one. On the flip side, usually there's a little bit of initial buyer remorse, right? Oh, we just signed this big deal. Now, they're really excited. Fix this. I thought you're going to cut our costs or do some of these things. So once that initial dust settles, we have this long runway of how do we continue to come back and replenish the well, right? We got to manage the account. We got to hit our SLAs. We got to do all those things. But in addition to that, we got to bring new ideas, new thoughts, new intellectual property of, hey, while we're working on this, let's go focus on something over here. I think that is often one of the most significant missing pieces in the operating models, for lack of a better description, of MSPs and others that have long-term contracts, right? And again, who owns that? Well, it takes a little bit of a village because, as Anthony and you were just saying, it can't fall on one person. Now, one person might deliver the message. Hey, Chris, I've been thinking about you and your business and your team. We've got some thoughts and ideas of how to improve ... right? But to get to that point, we probably want to spend some time working with, a handful of other folks on our team to assemble that message so that we can position it properly. So content driven, but very specific, right? Not willy-nilly. And that's, one of the things in terms of, back to your question of commoditization, right? We can out-innovate, but at some point we got to stay focused on what matters most to our accounts and proactively bring things to them.
Yeah, the reality is, if you're not doing those things, there's other people in the industry that are going to do that.
Someone is tapping them on the shoulder. Absolutely.
Yeah, you used to be able to be, hey, I've got this geography. I own my customers in this area. Ever since COVID, geography does not matter anymore.
Right.
So if you're thinking, hey, I've got this area locked in, it's just a matter of time. It's coming.
Yeah. Yeah. Which, again, I know this sounds a little self-serving given, the work that, we do day to day, but, it is our firm belief that if you're not commoditized now, you probably will be soon, and you don't know where it's going to come from. And again, the word commoditization sounds so monolithic, but it can come in lots of different forms. So, we're on the, hey, client, you got to work offense and you got to work defense. There's a playbook or playbooks, if you will, that we have to operate both of those at the same time. The offensive one is the, hey, if we're not bringing something to the table that matters, even if a MSP's client or customer says, thank you, but no thank you, at least they know we're thinking about them. And done well, we're allowed to go back in there every month or so and say, I've got something else I think you ought to consider. And by the way, they're topics that are not necessarily focused on selling more, MSP stuff at the moment. That will come, right? We all know that that's ultimately the goal, but, disassociating that a little bit from the messaging, there's an art to that, but it's a teachable, learnable art. And then there's frameworks to make that happen, because a lot of folks, didn't grow up that way in terms of their career. And, we spend a fair amount of time, helping people, if you will, recalibrate how they have those dialogues with their customers, with a goal, again, of differentiating themselves as an individual, but the MSP that they represent.
It's all about positioning yourself as that trusted advisor, that true partner. I'm not here to sell you on stuff. I'm here to solve problems. I'm here to help you deal with the reality you're facing with in a variety of ways, not necessarily just technology.
Yeah, you've made it, and you're playing that role, and you've cemented yourself outside of the services you offer. When that client picks up the phone and calls you to ask you a question about something unrelated to the service that you typically provide, because they trust your expertise just on a topic broadly, and you get to that spot, and you have a very solid customer for a very long time.